I want to welcome you all. I'm so glad to see everybody. I've seen a lot of familiar faces here that I haven't seen for a while, and it's so good to see you. I think most of you know me. I'm Evelyn. I've been a travel advisor for 11 years, and I book individual travel, but a big portion of my travel is also the escorted groups, which are very popular. If you've never tried one, I encourage you to take a look at one of them. We've got a special guest here tonight. This is Patrick Kinsella with Colette Tours. And some of you have probably met Patrick before. He's been to Tullahoma a few times. And he's going to talk a little bit about a couple of my escorted groups for 2025. The Canyonland tour in September and the Iceland trip in November. So he's going to do his presentation, and then he and I will be available to answer questions after that if you have any. I know a few of you are already signed up for one or both of these trips, so this will be good that you'll be able to get more information. And I do have some other flyers on the table in the back of the room for some other groups that I'm escorting, so feel free to grab those. You can fill out one of these little things, and if you see a trip that looks of interest, fill it out, just throw it on the table, and I'll get it at the end of the night. So I'm going to turn it over to Patrick.
Thank you. All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming out to listen to me ramble on about these tours. I promise I'll show you all the pretty pictures and things of that nature. But I know I do see some familiar faces in here. Who has traveled with us before? One, two? Yeah, you have? Okay. Well, if you have traveled with us, you know, we're glad to have you back. And if you haven't traveled with us, I can't think of, two better opportunities to experience Colette, because these are two destinations that we've been going to for a very long time. As Evelyn mentioned, my name is Patrick Kinsella. I'm the business development guy in Tennessee. I live up in Nashville, but I make my way down to Tullahoma 2 or 3 times a year to do a meeting like this. If you haven't traveled with us before, just a couple quick things that kind of teaches you how Colette operates and some of the unique things that we do. So, of course, you know, we're handling hotel luggage, you know, porter service from start to finish. All your transfers are taken care of, and all the things that you kind of expect from a guided tour. So I want to focus briefly on the 3 things that I think kind of make or break an experience on a trip like this. And number 1 is how the tours are actually developed and designed. And I had the opportunity to spend about a week and a half with all of our product designers up in our headquarters in Rhode Island just in December. And it was great because we had the chance to meet with them, learn about the method to their madness, why we use these hotels. They flew them in from all over the world. I met the person who does this tour out to the Canyon Country area, met the folks up in Iceland, South Africa, New Zealand, all over the world. So we're a true boots on the ground operation. We don't just sit in our headquarters and book hotels, right? We want you to experience these places like travelers and not tourists, okay? So we always like to say, for travelers, by travelers. True boots on the ground operation, not cookie cutter stuff. Number 2 is your tour management. So from the second that you land in destination till the day we send you home, you're with a Colette tour manager, and they're there to guide you through this entire experience, give you all the information, make sure you're having a good time, and of course are well taken care of. And they'll teach you all of the crazy Icelandic words because I can't pronounce them, all right? Lastly, I always like to say it's somewhat of an X factor thing. And if you've traveled with us before, you probably have seen some of these X Factor things. But if you're new to a tour with Colette, you know, my goal is when you come home from this trip, you feel like you can cross it off of your bucket list because you've had local experiences with the people. You've learned how and why they make their food this way. You've learned the history. Of course, you've seen the beautiful landscape. You've had the touch of culture. All of these things, that is why we travel. Because you're going to come home and have fantastic photos of the Grand Canyon and the different glaciers that we're going to see over in Iceland. But, you know, those really culturally immersive experiences, those are what you're really going to remember for a lifetime. And we really want you to come home again, feeling like you can cross these places off of your bucket list. And then, of course, lastly, traveling as a group with Evelyn's kind of the cherry on top because she's taking care of you too. All right. So the first tour I'm going to touch on is the Canyon Country Tour, and this trip is going to be leaving in September of this year. So we know that's just a hop, skip, and a jump away. It comes here before we know it, and it's a great flow. What I love about this tour is the time that we get to spend up at Lake Powell, that's a new addition for us as well. But what this looks like is a flight into Phoenix. We'll be leaving from Nashville. We'll do a group pickup here in Tullahoma and we'll all go up together. And I'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end. But we'll spend our first night here in Scottsdale before we make our way up to Sedona. We're going to stop here, do a full tour of Sedona, have the chance to meander around the markets, take some beautiful pictures of the red kind of sandstone rocks everywhere, learn about the history of the Native American people here, all the other beautiful things, before we head up to the Grand Canyon, okay? So we'll spend one night here in the Grand Canyon. Of course, it's really one of the bucket list things as Americans to go out and see the Grand Canyon. I believe it was Teddy Roosevelt who said, if you're an American and you have the means to do it, it's kind of like your patronage trip to go out and see the Grand Canyon. So of course we'll go up to the different rims and all the different beautiful lookouts here. Then we're going to spend 2 nights right on the banks of Lake Powell, which is a beautiful, beautiful area, and I'll touch on as we go through some of the photos here. Then we're heading into Utah and we have the chance to visit some of the best national parks in southern Utah, Bryce as well as Zion. And we'll be spending 2 nights right outside of Zion here in the town of Springdale. And again, you're going to have the opportunity to see all the beautiful hoodoos, rock formations, all the things that this area of Utah has to offer. And then we're going to be making our way into Las Vegas. And on this tour, I always like to say you have the chance to win back all the money that you spent on the tour. Okay, so this is a tour activity level 2, very, very moderately paced. Obviously, we will have some free time at these different parks, and if you want to go on small hikes and things of that nature, you're more than welcome to, but it's a really easy trip for us to get out west, okay? So, like I said, we'll be leaving from Nashville, flying into Phoenix and spending our first night in Scottsdale. We really just spend the night there, have the chance to sleep before we hit the road to head up into Sedona, because this is really what you want to see out here. So, when we make our way into Sedona, again, your tour manager is going to be with you, teaching you about the difference between a national park and a national forest, teaching you about the native people of the area, of course, the pioneers and the Wild West people, but it is really just about taking in the beautiful sights and sounds of our backyard. And whenever we talk about domestic tours, I always like to say we have an office in Sydney, Australia. Guess where the Australians come? They come here. They go to look at the Grand Canyon, So we have some of the best places just in our backyard that we often sometimes forget. So we'll be doing a full city tour of Sedona, see the beautiful red rocks, as well as learn a little bit more about the native culture of the area. This out west is obviously a huge mix of kind of the Native Americans, as well as, like I said, some of those pioneer people. But we'll have the chance to meander around a couple different markets on this tour. If you're interested in picking up some unique souvenirs like the pottery, as well as a dream catcher, all these different things that the Native Americans are kind of well known for. But we'll have some time to take some fantastic photos. Of course, like I said, your tour manager is going to be guiding you through this. We'll have the chance to go through the national forests here, and we're going to be making stops at all the most beautiful lookout spots for us to get off of the coach, take some fantastic pictures like this one here at the south rim of the Grand Canyon. So we like to get close to the edge, not too close, of course. We have the nice gates here, but like I said, we're going to have the chance to go to a lot of the different beautiful lookout spots throughout the Grand Canyon. And we got some great scenery here in Tennessee, but when you actually go and see the Grand Canyon and the massive expanse of it, and just to think that the river carved it out over millions and millions of years, I mean, that's what a trip out west is really all about here. So I encourage you to make sure your cameras are charged from start to finish on a tour like this. You never know when the sun's going to just perfectly hit it right, like this photo here. But yeah, it's a fantastic area. And again, like Teddy Roosevelt said, it's kind of our duty as Americans to go out and see the Grand Canyon. This area is also really well known for a famous trading post, as I mentioned, and this one is called the Cameron Trading Post. And again, you have the chance to maybe pick up some unique souvenirs, learn a little bit more about the Native American culture of the area as we make our way up into Lake Powell. All right. So really unique, I always like to tell people that this area is kind of like the surface of Mars, and then when I show you all the Iceland pictures, it's kind of like the surface of the moon, okay? So as you can see, they shot a lot of movies for Mars out here in this desert as well, and just the juxtaposition of a lake amongst the desert is really strange, because usually when lakes, you got all the vegetation and things of that nature, but not out here. And again, we're going to be spending 2 nights here. We're going to have the opportunity to go on a little raft adventure through the river system as well. All right. This isn't anything where you're going to have to be, you know, paddling down, dodging all these rocks and things of that nature. It's a motorized boat. We take it through, so it is completely safe. Really, really great way to see the river. And as you can see here, it's a nice little boat for us to cruise around. Takes in some beautiful sights and sounds as well. I love showing this picture here because I don't think anything kind of highlights the surface of Mars quite like this when I say that. So we'll have the chance to go on a cruise here on the lake as well. We'll do like a breakfast cruise. We'll have the chance to go out on the boat a couple different times as well, but the hotel's right there on the water also. So enjoy your free time in this area. Utilize the amenities of the hotel, the pool, of course the lake as well. Beautiful time to go as well here in September. All right, so after a couple nights on Lake Powell, we're going to be making our way into 2 of the big 5 of Utah. The first one here is going to be Bryce. Bryce's kind of claim to fame are these strange rock formations here. And what those are called are hoodoos. And they're really only found 2 places in the entire world. Here in southern Utah, as well as up in the Canadian Rockies too. And it's just these really unique rock formations that are formed from millions of years of wind and water erosion, and you're going to see them peppered all throughout the landscape here, and they just kind of look like needles sticking up everywhere that you go. So of course that beautiful red sandstone that this area is well known for, but as we mentioned, we're going to be heading up to all the different beautiful spots for us to take all the photos, the postcard pictures, all the things that you want to see here in southern Utah. So after we spend some time in Bryce, like I said, we're going to be having 2 nights here right outside of Zion National Park. And it still has that beautiful red hue of the desert, but this does have a little bit more of that vegetation. One of the unique ways that we have the chance to see Zion is kind of on these open air trolleys as well. So again, we'll have the opportunity if you want to do a couple little small hikes. We will take the motor coach a lot of places, but we want you to see it from the boats. 2 different types of boats, as well as, of course, kind of the open air tram that will take us through. And this will be guided as well, and they'll be on the mic teaching you all about the national park here in Utah. We do have another choice on tour, which just gives you the option, you know, what interests you more. If you want to go explore the Museum of Zion, we have a ticket already squared away for you. Or if you're a little bit more intrepid and want to, you know, go on those hikes that I mentioned, we have the opportunity to do that here in Zion as well. There's a lot of different types of trails here, so if you're a gung-ho hiker and you want to run up the mountain, your tour manager can say, that's that trail. If you want to take a nice leisurely stroll, they can point all that out for you as well. Okay? So after our time here in Zion, like I said, we're going to be making our way over into Las Vegas. We'll be spending 1 night here on the Strip before we fly you home back there. And we're going to go to Paris really quickly as well too. All right? But it's a great, great tour. These 2 trips that I'm going to be talking about today, it is a great mix of culture, but it's really just about the beauty of God's green earth here. So fantastic photos from start to finish. And again, like I said, this is where the Australians come. You don't have to fly all the way across the world to see some of the most beautiful things that are right here in our backyard. Okay? So the next tour I'm going to speak on is going to be Iceland's Northern Lights. Okay? This is a destination that has just exploded in popularity over the past 10-15 years or so. And it's for the past 10-15 years been a top 5 seller for us, and once you actually see the photos and you get over there, you're going to understand why. This tour is going to be leaving in November, which is prime Northern Lights viewing time as well. Okay, so for the Northern Lights, you technically can see them year round. I mean, hell, did you guys see them down here? I saw them up in Nashville. Yeah. So obviously they're going to be a lot more prominent in Iceland in November, but Q4, Q1 is really when you have the best chance to see them. And we're going to go out every night looking for the Northern Lights. Your tour manager is going to be in partnership essentially with kind of like the weather service over there to tell us, you know, great viewing 10 miles from the hotel, and you will have the chance to, again, go out every single night. But what folks love about Iceland as well, it's not that far of a flight either, okay? It's about halfway to mainland Europe, so we're not traveling all that far as well. What this looks like here is a flight in and out of the capital city, which is called Reykjavik. All right, this is the largest and capital city. Most of the population lives here, and the whole island only has about 350,000 people on the island as well. So it's a really tight-knit culture, and you're going to see that as we kind of go through and learn about them. But we'll spend our first night here in Reykjavik. The great thing about this is we're going to be landing bright and early in the morning because of that overnight flight, but we're not going all that far. So the first thing we do is get over to the hotel, which we already have early check-in squared away for you, and we have a nice hot breakfast waiting for you as well. Okay, so we'll also have the chance to, of course, tour all of Reykjavik. In the very first night there, we'll actually go out on a small boat into the bay here to get away from some of the light pollution to try to see the northern lights from the water on our very first night. All right, after that first day and night, we're going to be making our way over to the town of Vík, which is a smaller Icelandic village here, and we're going to spend 3 nights at a nice family-run hotel and enjoy the town of Vík as well. On the way over, we're going to see the different national parks and geysers and beautiful waterfalls. And then again, 3 nights here at the southernmost town of Vík. From here, we're going to have the chance to go and visit the black sand beaches, Diamond Beach, as well as making our way over to the glacier region of Iceland, where we have the chance to hopefully see some really unique animals that we don't have here, you know, seals and sea lions and stuff like that. Okay. After a couple days in Vík, we're going to be making our way back to Reykjavik. On the way, we kind of have one of the more bucket list things that you got to do when you're in Iceland, which I'll talk about, before we spend our final night in Reykjavik and then fly home the next day. All right, so this tour is a little bit more active, and really the reason for that is because we're going in winter. When we're going to these different geysers and waterfalls and rock formations, you know, we take the motor coach as close as we possibly can, but there are gravel trails that we're going to need to walk on to get up close and personal to some of the areas. And you'll see from the pictures as I go through, it's not a tour you really need to worry about buying ice climbing gear and stuff like that. A nice pair of hiking boots, something you're comfortable in, will be perfectly fine. All right. Does anyone know what causes the northern lights? We all just saw them. Come on, someone knows. What is it?
The magnetic pull with the sun.
Yes, yes. So the solar flares and winds and all the crazy stuff the sun shoots our way, interacting with the poles and the magnetic field of Earth as well. So again, you're going to get a science lesson from your tour managers, teach you all about it, but this is what we're going to see, right? So I know we had the chance to maybe take a peek. It probably looked just like the sky was a little purple. I mean, it's really, really prominent here, especially this time of year. So it is the land of the northern lights. Some other quick little things about Iceland here. Like I mentioned, we're only going to be 5 hours ahead of Central Time. So you're not going to have to worry too much about those long flights, jet lag, things of that nature. Obviously, this is a tour where we're going to want to pack in layers, okay? Of course, before you leave, we'll have all of your documents sent out to you. That gives you a great packing list and suggestions as well. As far as the currency goes, we are on the Icelandic krona. You're not going to really have to worry too much about cash because your credit card and debit card will work perfectly fine everywhere that we go as well. All right, but welcome to Reykjavik. It's kind of the capital of the, well, it is the capital of Iceland, as well as kind of the cultural center for the Vikings. So we're going to learn all about that. And Reykjavik actually means smoky bay because Iceland is basically one giant volcano. There's a ton of geothermal activity happening underneath Iceland at all times, and it kind of creates that smoke. But one of the unique things about Reykjavik is, you know, up in the Arctic Circle, you'd think that they wouldn't really care too much about all the colors. A lot of colorful houses here all over Reykjavik, which you'll have the chance to see as well. So once we get into Reykjavik, like I mentioned, we'll get you checked into our hotel. We'll have early check-in. We'll have a nice hot breakfast for you. Maybe take a little bit of a nap if you like. You'll have a little bit of free time before we do our first full guided tour of Reykjavik. Like I mentioned, it's not that large of a city to begin with. The other great thing about Reykjavik regarding ice and things of that nature, because of that geothermal activity, it melts all the ice because it kind of has that natural heating underneath of the concrete as well. So it's a really cool thing. But we'll have the chance to see the famous Hallgrímskirkja church. I can kind of do that word, but the rest of them I'm not going to embarrass myself. All right. So as you can see, it kind of has that traditional Viking style architecture here. And as you can see, small little shops we'll have the chance to walk around and visit as well. Also, really well known over there, at least, they just love their hot dogs, okay? So that's one of the things we'll have the chance to try as well. Some of the food here is really unique too, and you know, we'll have the chance to try some of those Icelandic things that you maybe, it might sound a little gross, the pickled herring and the shark and all this weird stuff, but we will have some great food. They make fantastic dairy products, lamb, different cuts of meat. There is some great seafood here as well. So we'll have a couple great dinners along the way. And as I mentioned, that first night, we're actually going to go out into the Bay of Reykjavik. We will provide you with additional kind of foul weather gear as well. And we'll have the chance to go out and hopefully see the northern lights from the water on our very first evening. All right, so it's a great way to kick off the tour. We'll come back, get a great night's sleep, and then we're going to be traversing through the countryside into the town of Vik. All right, on the way, we're going to be stopping and seeing a couple geysers, the beautiful Gullfoss or Golden Waterfalls, the famous national park here. And you know, like I said, pretty much any time of day, technically you can see them. Obviously at night, that's when we really want to take a look. But as we continue through, we will visit the famous Gullfoss waterfall. It's also known as the Golden Waterfall because when the sun hits it kind of perfectly, it looks like a flowing river of gold. And again, beautiful, beautiful landscape here from start to finish. It's just untouched. It's raw because only 350,000 people live on this island, okay? There is tourism, but there's not tourist traps and things like that. So it's really rugged and natural. Here's an example of kind of that gravel trail, as I mentioned, that would take you to kind of the different viewing spots to see the waterfalls. So these little specks here, those are people, all right? So we'll have the chance to walk along this path here, take some fantastic photos, and if you like, you can actually make your way out here as well, all right? So obviously, the whole national park system here we're going to have the chance to learn about as well. This national park is actually where the Eurasian plate meets the North American plate as well. So that kind of aids in all of the geothermal activity, all that grinding and shifting and things of that nature. We will have the chance to also go to the lava center, which is a really unique way for us to again learn about some of these volcanoes and the geothermal activity that is Iceland. It's got these great kind of interactive exhibits and things of that nature. And one of the famous waterfalls of the area as well, apart from the Golden Waterfalls. Okay, so once we get into the town of Vik, we're going to time it up to try to see the northern lights. And here's kind of a nice, not a full video, a time lapse essentially of the town during nighttime. So as you can see, beautiful. And we're hopefully going to see them every single night. And like I said, your tour manager after dinner will always go out and take folks who want to try to chase the northern lights. So, because sometimes we have to get away from the hotel and the town and things of that nature. And if you saw them on the first 3 nights and you want to hit the hay early that night, not a problem. Okay. So what does this hotel look like? It's a little bit more of a family-run hotel that we've had a partnership with a long time in the town of Vik. Not a lot of folks live here, and there's not a lot of hotels to begin with as well. But we'll have the chance to, again, try some fantastic Icelandic food. The hotel will have all the amenities. It has a gym, a pub. It's got laundry facilities too if you need to use that as well. And we encourage you to explore Vik. So what are we going to see in this small Icelandic village? First, we're going to have the chance to visit the famous black sand beaches, which is where they filmed a lot of movies along the past couple years as well. We'll go to the famous Skogar Museum to learn about the Viking history of the area. We'll also go to the famous Skogafoss waterfalls, which has the hidden Viking treasure in it, which I'll tell you a little bit more about. And then we're going to have the chance to go and visit the 4th largest glacier in Iceland as well. All right, so here at the black sand beaches, you know, as you can see, it's the black sand, okay? It's got rock formations all over the place for us to look at, as well as the famous arches too. So really, really interesting here. I encourage you to keep your eyes peeled for the puffins, all right? That's one of the famous things here in Iceland. It's that bird with the beautiful kind of rainbow beak as well, and they like to nest within kind of the rock formations of Iceland too. Also, when we're here at these black sand beaches, you're often going to find ice washed up onto the beach, and it's this beautiful crystal clear ice contrasted over the black sand. It's also called Diamond Beach too, because it looks like diamonds scattered all over the sand there. So, like I mentioned, the rock formations we'll have the chance to visit. We'll also go to the famous Skogar Museum, which is built out of these kind of tented homes that how the Icelandic people used to make their homes. And again, we'll have the chance to learn about the Viking culture and history of the area. We'll also go to the famous, or the largest waterfall here in the area that is said to have that Viking treasure buried behind it. And then we're going to have our chance to go to one of the glaciers of the area as well. Here's a quick little still shot of the glacier region. So now contrast this to Lake Powell. That's what I'm saying. This looks like the surface of the moon. Lake Powell, kind of the surface of Mars. And you're going to see this stuff from start to finish. And again, each and every night we'll have the chance to go out and hunt for the northern lights as well. We often like to pair a drive-by to one of the famous little farms of the area to see the Icelandic horses, if anyone knows what those look like. Beautiful horses that have that long hair that Iceland is famous for as well. So one of our longer days, we're making our way out to the glacial lagoon region. Okay, so as you can see, these glaciers, we're going to learn the difference between a glacier and an ice cap, all sorts of things here. And this is a great photo of the glacier here. Yeah, we don't have that down south, you know. So here's a nice little video too. Yeah, so keep your eyes peeled for all the wildlife of the area here. And here's a great photo of kind of that beautiful crystal clear ice that I was talking about as well. So awesome area. And again, each night we'll have the chance to go out and enjoy the northern lights too. So this is a great shot here, basically from the hotel, which you can walk from the hotel to the black sand beaches as well. All right. So after our 3 nights in Vik, we're going to be making our way back to Reykjavik. But first, we're kind of doing one of the tried and true, can't miss it things in Iceland, which is going to the lagoon. All right, so after we learned all about the volcanic activity here in Iceland, we're going to go to the famous Blue Lagoon. So even though we're going to Iceland in the wintertime, you do want to pack a bathing suit as well. All right, so it's obviously naturally heated from the geothermal activity here. It's one of the most famous things to do, kind of the jaw dropper of the area. And if you're not interested, there's a great pub that's attached to it. You can enjoy a drink while everyone else is enjoying the water here. They make all sorts of creams and salts and stuff from this area that is really good for your skin as well. But we like to cap off the tour here doing that. Here's kind of a quick little photo, again, right next to the hotel here as well. But
Iceland has become somewhat of a trending travel destination, but there's a real reason for that. It is beautiful and majestic. Everywhere you go, you're greeted as a friend. You're going to see things here that you can't see anywhere else in the world. You'll have an opportunity to see the geothermic power of Iceland with the hot water shooting up into the air hundreds of feet high. We head on to Gullfoss, a spectacular double fall waterfall. Most people just do the Golden Circle, but we head out to the south coast and stop at Seljalandsfoss, and we go out and explore the Reynisfjara Black Sand Beach. We have a day where we head out to Jökulsárlón Glacier Lagoon, blue ice that breaks off of the Vatnajökull Glacier that ends up on Diamond Beach, where you have these clear as glass pieces that are on the black sand beach. We take a day to go to Skogafoss. We really do focus on going out every night that we can to see the northern lights. We end with the ultimate in relaxation when we go to the Blue Lagoon. They leave seeing so much more that they never expected to see. Iceland is really more than a vacation, it's an adventure. It's really truly something you're not going to see anywhere else in any of your travels, no matter where you go. So make sure that you get to Iceland. It's just the most wonderful place to visit.
there you go. Video kind of brings it alive a little bit. But with all the tours, we'll always have a farewell dinner as well when we get back into Reykjavik there. But of course, we hope you join us. And that tour is going to be leaving November 13th of this year. All right, so some of the other things I'll briefly touch on before I open it up for questions. We do have the hometown pickup, so we'll do a pickup here, take you to the airport, and then when you land back in Nashville, we'll have a ride to take you back down as well, and that's included, okay? If you are interested in personalizing your trip, we can always look into that for you, such as business class airfare, things of that nature. But one of the main things that I want to touch on is the travel protection that we have with Colette, because it is hands down the best in the industry. It allows you to cancel if you need up until the night before departure. No questions asked. It's cash back in your pocket. Okay? No medical pre-existing, nothing. All right? From the minute that you signed up, again, up until the night beforehand, if you decide you don't want to go again, no questions asked, cash back. Okay? If you don't cancel, which of course we hope you don't, it's going to cover you on the tour itself. All right, so any medical assistance, baggage loss or delay, tour interruption, delay, whatever the case may be, you're going to be covered from start to finish. Okay, so I know we had some folks who have traveled with us in the past, but if this is going to be your first tour with us, wherever we decide to go next year, you'll have an additional discount on that trip as well too. So we just want to thank you with traveling with Evelyn and of course Colette. All right, so for the Iceland trip, we will need a passport. We just want to make sure that your passport's going to be valid for about 6-8 months from when the trip actually takes place. So if your passport's set to expire in December or even January of next year, you got plenty of time to get it updated. But the State Department kind of asks me to relay that to you. So if we do need to get it updated, we got plenty of time to do so. You may have seen this float around. There's potentially a new visa that's going to be implemented for European travel for Americans. It's not set in stone yet. I've been hearing about this since 2020, but it keeps getting kicked down the road. So if it does arise, we'll help you out. It's really easy from what I have been told, where, it's a $10 fee, kind of like a money grab from the European Union, unfortunately. But when that arises, we'll help you out with that too. So we do have group websites for each of the tours that I spoke about today, but a couple quick dates and price points I want to touch on. Okay, so for the Canyon Country tour, a very important date is going to be March 19th. Okay. March 19th is what we call our seat reduction or deposit due date or insurance kick-in date. It's basically the day that everything happens, okay? So from today, and for those of you who are already signed up on this tour, you're at zero risk until March 19th, because if you sign up tonight and March 18th rolls around and you decide that you don't want to go on the trip anymore, you can cancel and you're getting your deposit back of $698, but you're also getting your insurance back as well. Okay, so you're at absolutely zero risk. When you combine these two, if you choose to take the insurance, basically your first payment and to reserve a spot on this trip would be $1,147. Okay, again, that includes your transfer to and from Nashville, that includes your airfare, that's going to include everything that I spoke about on the tour and everything on the way back as well. All right, so that is for the Canyon Country tour, which again is leaving in September. For the Iceland trip, what that looks like is going to be May 13th, okay? A deposit is $698. The insurance, if you choose to take it, $549. And again, you're at zero risk until 5/13, all right? Like I said, very, very popular trip. If you're not signed up yet and you're thinking about it, I'd highly recommend reserving a spot on the tour, and then you can sleep on it for a couple of months, okay? Because once this date eclipses, it's going to be impossible for us to get you on the tour unless there's a cancellation of some sort. And even after that, the price point might be different. So that's just my best practice, okay? What that would look like is $1,247, okay? So I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. I don't know if we want to flip the lights back on, but we'll go from there. What questions do y'all have?
I have a question.
Yes.
When we go in November to Iceland, What is the amount of daylight that we have?
So, not a ton. I could pull up the actual amount of time, but it's probably getting dark by 4 o'clock, 3:30, somewhere around there. Yeah. Or twilight, I should say.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are the temperatures?
No, it's going to vary. Maybe in the middle of the night it could be about 20 degrees. I've sent groups last November where they said it was 50 and it was fine. It just kind of depends on the sun and different weather that moves through. But we obviously are going to make sure that you're very well prepared. It's all about layers, but it's even more so about staying dry because, if it's 40 degrees and you're completely dry, you can manage that. But if you're wet, not as fun.
Hey Corey, I was there in November, I think in 2022, and I took that picture when I was there in November. You can see the beautiful lighting there, see how gold it looks, but it really wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, the weather. It did snow one afternoon, it just sort of spit snow, but it didn't really accumulate or anything. But obviously you're going to need cold weather gear, but some days we could just get by with a vest.
Okay. I just didn't want to overpack. Always overpack.
Yes.
On the Iceland trip, do you have a certain number that you will be taking?
Yeah, so we have the full 44 reserved for our group here. I believe we have 30 some
Yeah,
signed
33 I think.
33. So
booked already.
we got, 8, 9, maybe 10 spots left on that trip. So that's why if you're interested, I'd recommend getting with Evelyn and getting your name on it, and then you can sleep on it for a couple of months. But it's looking like it's going to be just our group from Tullahoma. Yes?
When you were talking about the deposit and the insurance and for Iceland, like the May cancellation date. So after that, and you change your mind or something happens, is there like a proportionate thing or up until the date?
Yeah, that's a good question. So let's say for Iceland, so from now until May 13th, you're 1,247, completely refundable, no questions asked, all good. From May 13th until the night before departure, if you decide to cancel, you can do that. If it's the night before departure, you'd be paid in full at that time. You would get all of that back minus the insurance premium. So that's kind of your insurance kick-in date as well. Yes?
I read somewhere that Colette has you, like on the canyon tour, that people would not have assigned seats, that you'll just move around on a regular basis. Is that correct?
Kind of rotate through on the motor coach. Is that what we're talking about? Each tour manager does it a little bit differently, I would say. Some have kind of a system of moving people around. If you have bad motion sickness and you need to sit up front, obviously they'll accommodate something like that. But they try to kind of rotate it a little bit. Yeah. But we wouldn't make you sit with someone you don't want to, if that's what you want to say. Yeah.
Another question. With the flight, do y'all go with a certain airline? And also, how long is the flight from Nashville to there?
So across the board, United, Delta, American, in those alliances for this tour, Iceland Air is part of that as well. What that might look like is there's now a direct from Nashville to Reykjavik, which hopefully we can get our hands on as well. Let's say we get that one. That's probably a 7-hour flight, maybe a little less than that. If we fly from Nashville to, say, JFK or somewhere on the East Coast, then from there, I guess you did it.
It's about 4 hours.
4 hours? Yeah, it's not too far. Not too far. 4.5 maybe. It takes a little longer getting home than it does getting there, just based on weather, how that works. But it's not too far.
Language, do they pretty much speak English?
Probably better than the guy at the gas station sometimes, yeah. Yeah, they all speak perfect English. Nothing you'll have a problem with there. And again, your credit card will work fine too, so you don't really need to worry about taking out kronas and doing 135 per one. Nothing you need to worry about too much.
So what's not covered?
Insurance, if you choose to take it, and then a couple of the meals on your own. Pretty much everything else is squared away for you. Yeah. Souvenirs too. I can't pay for those. Sorry.
What about the gratuities, Patrick?
And gratuities are up to your discretion. There are 2 people that we recommend we take care of, and one is going to be your tour manager, who's with you from start to finish, and I can promise you, you won't have any heartburn paying them. The other one is going to be your motor coach driver, who's getting you from point A to point B safely. They're hauling your bags to and from the rooms for you. We generally recommend, say for a tour manager, about $5, $6, $7 per day, and then for a motor coach driver, $3, $4, $5 per day, somewhere around there. But again, that's up to your discretion. Yes.
In what currency do they like to be paid?
They'll take whatever you have. I think it's best. So you can kind of help yourself out on the back end. If you go to, say, your bank before you leave, you average that out for the days that you're actually there, not your travel days. And you take that out from your bank, U.S. currency, and then throw an extra 20 on there, because they have to go and then convert it, but then you don't have to go and do the math of 138 and then take it out from a ATM over there. Yeah.
Sorry. So we've looked at cruises to Iceland that kind of go to the different ports all the way around it. As far as, you've probably been on those as well, but would you recommend the land tour over the cruise tour?
You know, at Colette, I mean, we do have some cruising options. Like we have a cruise to Alaska, a great one in Croatia, things of that nature. For the most part, we're a land-based operator for a reason, because again, with us, we want you to be with the locals and live amongst them. Cruises are fantastic, but you know, we want you to stay there. When the cruise ships go home, you can actually see what life is like for people in Iceland or wherever we're at in the world. But that's more of a just, some people love to cruise, and that's the only way that they're going to do it. But for us, we like to live there.
So I understand correctly, the maximum number that we will all be buddy-buddy with for a week will be 44?
That's the absolute max, yeah. Yeah. And again, we have about 33 from the group here already. We can't take any more than 44. Yeah. Anything else for me? Well, I'll stick around if you do have anything else. And thank you for coming out, and we hope you join us. All right.